Good morning. I hereby call to order this 13th meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for the year 2023. Welcome to everyone here with us today and those who are watching on the live stream. In honor of Veterans Day, which our nation observes this weekend, I now welcome Rick Bowie from our Bureau of Administration to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Rick served in the U.S. Navy as an electronics technician for weapons control systems during the Vietnam War. Additionally, I had the great fortune of working with Rick's, I'm going to say other half, not better half, other half, my previous position, Stacy. So Rick, the floor is yours. Please.
I'll stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At today's meeting, which is open to the public, the Commission will act on various matters. There is no opportunity for the public to address the Commission at this public meeting. Public meetings, motions, statements, and video will be available on the Commission's website later today. The first matter on this morning's agenda are the approval of the minutes of the meeting of September 21st, 2023. I would like to recognize Commissioner Coleman as the editor of the minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. I've reviewed the minutes of the September 21st, 2023 public meeting, and I move they be approved as submitted.
You have heard the motion by Commissioner Coleman. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Yanora. Any discussion? All those in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Minutes are approved by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary, we are ready for your presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Your various bureaus and offices have prepared the following agenda for your consideration. Therefore, let us begin with the recommendation of Director Monahan and the Bureau of Audits that the Commission adopt the audit report on the distribution system improvement charge for the Duquesne Light Company and release the audit report to the public.
Is there a motion to approve the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Zerfas, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 2, it is recommended by the Bureau of Consumer Services that the Commission adopt the proposed order regarding the petition of the Peoples Natural Gas Company and Peoples Gas Company to amend their Universal Service and Energy Conservation Plan.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Coleman, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 3, and matters presented by Acting Director Hafner and the Office of Special Assistance, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the petition filed by the Norfolk Southern Railway Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Yanora, seconded by Commissioner Zerfas. Any discussion?
Chairman, I have a motion.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Thank you. Please enter this motion into the record as though I read it in its entirety. On December 7th, 2018, Norfolk Southern Railway Company filed an application with the Commission seeking approval for the reconstruction of a bridge crossing overhead of its tracks in the north side of Pittsburgh. After litigation and settlement, Norfolk Southern filed a public utility municipality contract under Section 507 of the Code. Norfolk Southern has since executed that contract. By secretarial letter dated May 26, 2023, the Commission approved the settlement and cost allocation of the project. Norfolk Southern filed a petition for reconsideration of staff action seeking revision of one ordering paragraph in that secretarial letter. Norfolk Southern's petition contends that ordering paragraph 15 may go beyond the Commission's authority under Section 508 of the Code, which allows for modification of contracts, and the Commission's general authority relating to rail crossings, which Norfolk Southern contends is limited to safety issues. The Commission's statements must always be read in line with its authority under the Public Utility Code. Ordering paragraph 15 of the letter does not act to modify the parties' agreement, but merely preserves the Commission's authority under Sections 2702, 2704, 508, and the Public Utility Code generally. Norfolk Southern's petition speculatively assumes the Commission will act outside of its authority, but nothing in the ordering paragraphs at issue supports such a claim. Thus, at this time, there's no need to go beyond the grounds that Norfolk Southern's arguments are speculative in denying this petition. Therefore, I move that the petition for reconsideration of staff action is denied, and 2, the Office of Special Assistant shall prepare an opinion in order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
We've heard a motion by Vice Chair Barrow. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes by a vote of 5-0. On the matters amended by the motion, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter passes as amended by the motion by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Continuing at the bottom of page 3, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the informal investigation of the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus the Peoples Natural Gas Company.
Is there a motion to approve the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Yanora, seconded by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion?
Chairman, I have a motion.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Please enter this motion in the record as though I read it in its entirety. I will not. This matter concerns a Peoples Natural Gas overpressurization event that occurred in April of 2020 in Robinson. The event caused 3 furnaces to flare and catch fire and resulted in replacement of 11 furnaces, 70 heaters, 194 valves, 135 water tank valves, and 1 range. The cause of the event was the incorrect installation of pressure gauges during a regulator inspection, as well as the failure of 3 Peoples technicians to follow procedures for that type of job. Our Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement concludes that beyond that failure, the training of the employees was not sufficient for these types of jobs. And also the design of the regulator station contributed to the incident. The proposed settlement before us provides that Peoples agrees to pay a civil penalty of $250,000. Additionally, Peoples agrees to an extensive list of modifications of operational practices regarding how it trains, how it prepares inspections, and bypass valve operations. And the company also agrees to modify its system to include equipment to prevent incidents like this. Upon review of the settlement, I believe that it needs to be augmented with supplemental information so that we, the Commission, can make an informed decision regarding whether the settlement is in the public interest. First, the settlement should be supplemented by the parties to clearly and publicly indicate the cost of replacing the private property damaged by this incident. Currently, this information is only accessible to the parties and should be included in the settlement. I see no reason why these costs should be confidential. Second, the parties should explain how the cost to remediate the damage to private property will be paid for. For example, is insurance going to cover the replacement of those private facilities? Will Peoples shareholders bear the cost, and also will those costs be sought in rates? Finally, the parties should comment on their intentions regarding recovery of the civil penalty in rates. Therefore, I move that the Commission's Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement and Peoples Natural Gas Company shall supplement the record in the settlement within 20 days of entry of an opinion and order consistent with this motion. If supplemental information is not submitted, the settlement shall be deemed withdrawn. 2, upon receipt of the supplemental information, the Office of Special Assistant shall prepare an opinion and order summarizing the settlement and supplemental information for the Commission's review, and if approved, for publication in the Pennsylvania Bulletin. 3, the Office of Special Assistant shall prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
We've heard the motion by Vice Chair Barrow. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion? I do have a statement for both the motion and the matter. Before joining my staff as legal counsel, Stephanie Weimer was employed in the Commission's Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement and worked on this investigation. Please note she has not advised me in this matter. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. On the matters amended by the motion, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter passes as amended by the motion by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 4, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the formal complaint of Jill Troutman and Tracy Troutman et al. Versus the Metropolitan Edison Company and Mid-Atlantic Interstate Transmission, LLC.
Is there a motion to approve the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Coleman, seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion?
Chairman, I have a statement.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Madam Secretary, please enter this statement into the record as though I read it in its entirety. Today, we dispose of several complaints against MetEd and MATE because the complainants failed to meet their burden that the proposed facilities are in violation of the code, the regulations, or any commission order. At issue was whether the transmission facilities harm property values, harm the environment, and harm personal health. I agree with the administrative law judge that the complainants presented inconclusive evidence to support their assertions and therefore did not meet their burden of proof. However, I wish to highlight the standard for exceptions that's used here, and it's not whether parties showed that the ALJ made an error of law or fact. We, the commissioners, do not sit as a reviewing court of ALJ decisions, but rather the commission itself is the ultimate fact finder. Therefore, while the commission typically will not disturb an ALJ's evidentiary rulings or findings of fact unless it was determined to be an abuse of discretion or lacking substantial evidence, and pointing to a specific error of law or fact made by an ALJ is helpful for the commission's independent review of the case. The commission is free to reweigh evidence or reassess credibility. Exceptions are an appropriate vehicle to request the commission to do so. The instant exception should be denied because the evidentiary record does not support the complainant's claims, but I did want to clarify my thoughts on the exception standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Zerfus.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to be recorded as concurrent result only on this matter, please.
Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0, noting Commissioner Zerfus concurring in result only. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 5, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the application filed by the Pennsylvania American Water Company Wastewater Division to acquire the wastewater assets of the Butler Area Sewer Authority.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Zerfas, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion on the matter.
Commissioner Yenora.
I ask that my motion be entered into the record as if I read it in its entirety. This matter concerns the application of Pennsylvania American Water Company to acquire the wastewater system owned by the Butler Area Sewer Authority. The company, the authority, I&E, the OCA, and the OSBA filed a settlement requesting approval of the application. No party opposed the settlement. I believe the acquisition has substantial affirmative public benefits that outweigh its potential harms. Most important, the company will address the system's DEP environmental compliance issues, including a capital plan to spend $75.8 million on environmental and other projects to upgrade and maintain the system. The potential rate impacts for the acquisition do not outweigh all the other benefits of this transition. The authority existing customers would face a substantial rate increase to fund almost $80 million of capital projects without the acquisition. Additionally, the acquisition will not have any immediate impact on PAWSC's existing wastewater customers. For this reason, the settlement should be approved and the application should be granted. Therefore, I move that 1, the exception of Pennsylvania American Water Company and the exceptions of Butler Area Sewer Authority, the City of Butler, the Township of Butler, are granted consistent with this motion. 2, the recommended decision of Administrative Law Judge Martha Gould is modified consistent with this motion. 3, that the joint petition for approval by the unanimous settlement of all issues is approved without modification. 4, the proposed order paragraph in attachment 8 of the joint petition for approval of unanimous settlement of all issues be adopted consistent with this motion. 5, the application filed by Pennsylvania American Water Company pursuant to Section 1102, 1103, 1329, and 507 of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Code for approval of its acquisition of the wastewater system assets of the Butler Area Sewer Authority granted consistent with this motion. And 6, the Office of Special Assistance prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
We've heard the motion by Commissioner Yenora. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zerfas.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary, I have a statement in this matter. Please add it to the record as if I read it in its entirety. But we heard that the commission before us today is making a determination on Pennsylvania American Water Company's, I'll call them PA American, application requesting commission approval to acquire the Butler Area Sewer Authority, I'll call them BASA, wastewater system, and the joint petition for approval of unanimous settlement of all issues. First, I wanted to take the opportunity to express my gratitude to the Office of Administrative Law Judge and to the Office of Special Assistance for a thorough review of the evidence in this matter, careful consideration of the parties' positions, and diligent application of the relevant case law. Second, I wanted to highlight that our obligation here today is to apply a balancing test and weigh all of the factors for and against the transaction, including the impact on rates of PA Americans and BASA's existing customers. Our task is to determine if PA American has established its burden of proof that there are substantial affirmative public benefits of the proposed acquisition that outweigh the harms resulting from it. The task is to assign weight to the benefits and harms, and in doing so, to determine how the scale tips on the burden of proof under law. It is not the mere existence or even the number of the proven benefits that matter, but rather the weight assigned to any proven benefits and a determination whether they outweigh the resulting harms, including both immediate and long-term. Recently, in a case, Cicero v. PA PUC, which is a recent Commonwealth Court decision, the Commonwealth Court reversed a commission order that had approved the acquisition of a municipality's wastewater assets by a large public utility because the Commonwealth Court determined that the benefits did not outweigh the acknowledged harms of the acquisition. The Commonwealth Court upheld prior precedent that the substantial affirmative public benefits of a proposed acquisition must outweigh the acknowledged harms resulting from it. The court further explained that where harms result from the transaction, the acquisition must also provide benefits that differ substantially from those already being provided by the existing system operator, and providing the same services that are already being provided or providing for upgrades that the existing system operator is capable of providing are not substantial affirmative benefits that meet the legal test established in the case law. I contend with a few minor and inconsequential differences. The benefits offered by the parties in the instant case are similar to the benefits offered in the Cicero case. Benefits that the Commonwealth Court found did not outweigh the harms of the acquisition. Based on the evidence of this particular case, I agree with the ALJ that the benefits to be realized from the proposed acquisition do not outweigh the harms to current PA American customers and existing BASA customers. For this reason, I support the staff recommendation to deny the application because PA American failed to meet its burden of proof to show that its ownership of BASA's wastewater system would affirmatively promote the service, accommodation, convenience, or safety of the public. PA American identified as a benefit that it will assume BASA's responsibilities under a 2019 corrective action plan with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, and implement a 5-year capital improvement plan totaling $75.8 million. While this appears to be a benefit that should weigh heavily on the scale, the ALJ found that BASA has been and is continuing to provide sufficient service to its customers and has made progress with its cap. Additionally, while BASA may have had previous compliance issues, there is no evidence to support that BASA is not complying with the DEP cap or is otherwise in current noncompliance with environmental statutes, regulations, permits, or orders. The ALJ found that both BASA and PA American have similar abilities to obtain the necessary financing to complete the capital improvement program. So PA American does not provide a uniquely different advantage to BASA's ratepayers than already exist in BASA as a municipal authority. Again, I would agree with these comments. While PA American has committed to spending $75 million for capital improvements, which it can guarantee due to its size and financial fitness, BASA is likewise also capable of completing the needed improvements and upgrades without the proposed acquisition. As the Commonwealth Court found in the Cicero case, providing the same services already being provided or providing for upgrades that the existing system operator is capable of providing do not constitute substantial affirmative public benefits. While PA American has the technical, managerial, and financial ability, this does not necessarily mean that every acquisition it seeks will further the public interest. Based on the evidence in this case, the ALJ properly determined, and I quote, that the service being provided by BASA does not appear to be inadequate, and that the other relevant evidence does not substantiate that the impact of the transaction will have on rates outweighs the marginal benefits that will be provided by PA American, end of quote. PA American needed to establish that other types of benefits would result from the transaction and that those benefits are substantial enough, again, to outweigh the harms. I would find that the ALJ properly determined that PA American did not do so here. While in many cases, regionalization and the acquisition of smaller systems by larger systems may improve the long-term viability of the water and wastewater industry, I contend that it is critical to carefully evaluate each of these cases because there's a direct connection here to the ability of low and moderate income families to afford life-sustaining water and wastewater services. Water and wastewater services are increasingly unaffordable because the rates are ever increasing. But I do want to emphasize that this reality is not solely because of these acquisitions, but acquisition costs can be a substantial contributing factor that should be addressed. So that said, I do not believe that the municipal system should be discouraged from ever considering the sale of their water or wastewater assets. And I do not believe that the applicable law requires imminent financial distress or a failure to adequately service customers to satisfy the requirements for approval. However, the applicable legal requirements of substantial affirmative public benefits outweighing harms must be met. So for all of these reasons, I will be a no on this motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Zerfus. Any further discussion?
Chairman?
Vice Chair Barrow.
I'd like to associate myself with Commissioner Zerfus's comments, and I will try not to repeat the very well-written legal analysis that you just did. Mergers and acquisitions of public utilities are especially complicated transactions, and the Commission always pays close attention to them. They're governed by Sections 1102 and 1103 of the Code that provide that the acquisitions must provide a substantial affirmative public benefit. In this case, the targeted system is municipally owned, so we also have to apply the valuation criteria found in Section 1329 of the Code. It's the intersection of the long-established Sections 1102 and 1103 with Section 1329 that I want to discuss. Now, 1329 is about the valuation of the municipal water and wastewater systems that are going to be acquired. It does not do away with the analysis that we have to do under 1102 and 1103 of the Code, where we have to look at whether it is necessary or proper for the service, accommodation, and convenience or safety of the public, whether the transaction meets that standard. We have longstanding case law. We've got the City of York, which says that granting one of these transactions needs to affirmatively benefit the public. We've got the McCloskey case more recently, which discusses the balancing tests that the Commission needs to undertake to weigh all the factors for or against the transaction. And then most recently, we've got the Cicero case, which upheld those cases and says that the proposed acquisition must outweigh the benefits of the proposed acquisition must outweigh the acknowledged harms resulting from the acquisition. So in looking at the benefits, looking at the harms, let's walk through them. There are plenty of benefits to this transaction. I am not going to argue PA American is a world-class water and wastewater utility and operator, and Butler area's customers will likely see an improvement in operations and customer service. Next, PA American will likely complete the Department of Environmental Protection's 2019 CAP corrective action plan on a quicker timeline than Butler area. But I also see in the evidence that the Butler area system is compliant with the DEP CAP, and it is in good to fair condition. That is in the record. Next, Pennsylvania American will offer an assistance program to both residential and commercial and industrial Butler area customers experiencing payment difficulties. PA American is going to retain Butler area utility employees in a Butler area office, and a very large benefit is that the municipality will receive $228 million for a plant that has a book value of $91 million. That is definitely a benefit to the municipality. It will allow them to clear debt and utilize the proceeds for other municipal priorities, whatever they are. So I weigh those benefits against the harms. The harms are mostly financial. The rates that the Butler area customers are going to pay will increase from the current $43 a month to $45.50 per month prior to the closing. 1 year after the closing, those rates will go up to $63.70 a month. That's about a 48% increase in a year. And the rate increases are not going to stop there. Because of the way that we do rate making, the goal is always going to be to get the Butler area customers up to the Pennsylvania American zoned rates. Those zoned rates are currently $106 a month. Next, due to the considerable revenue shortfall that is baked into this acquisition, $12,815,800, spawned by the initial rate cap that we're seeing in this transaction, existing Pennsylvania American customers are going to have to subsidize this $228 million acquisition with no corresponding benefit to the existing Pennsylvania American customers that I can see. The revenue shortfall included in the acquisition, like I said, that's going to be subsidized by existing customers. And that shortfall is going to have to be factored into Pennsylvania American's next base rate case. Depending on the timing of that filing or that rate case, it's entirely possible that other recent acquisitions will be added into that rate case as well, compounding the rate effect on PA American ratepayers. The number of the benefits to this transaction exceed the number of the harms, but they do not outweigh the harms, in my opinion. The majority of the benefits to this transaction are going to accrue to the municipality. There will be some benefit to the Butler area acquired customers, but the harms that I see in the form of rates will all fall on the acquired and the existing PA American customers in the form of substantial rate increases. The customers, the Butler area customers, they may get better service. I'm pretty sure they will. But I also see in this record that the municipality has the ability to improve that service and the infrastructure without impacting rates to the degree that this transaction will. Butler area would very likely have to raise rates at some point to complete the Department of Environmental Protection's cap in an expeditious manner. But I also think that Butler area's rates might be lower than those of an investor-owned utility. Municipal borrowing rates tend to be lower. Municipal utility rates do not include returns on equity. And municipalities don't have to design rates to satisfy a cost of service standard like the investor owns. Earlier, I said that the intersection of sections 1102, 1103, and 1329 are what concern me. I have zero quarrel with section 1329. The legislature enacted that as a tool to be utilized to encourage the consolidation of water and wastewater utilities in this state for good reason. And properly implemented, section 1329 has the potential to improve water and wastewater service to millions of Pennsylvania citizens. My quarrel is with the runaway valuations that are carried out under the cover of 1329 and giving lip service to industry consolidation. It's not jiving. The benefits analysis that's required by 1102 and 1103 in this case would be fairly straightforward to me if the financial value assigned to this system was anywhere in the neighborhood of what I consider realistic. Book value of the system's $91 million. Pennsylvania Americans ratepayers are being told by evaluators that it is worth $230 million. The parties here discounted that $230 down to $228 million and then offered universal service programs to both residential and commercial customers to alleviate the rate increases that this sizable transaction will have on rates. I don't see that as a benefit. Now, Act 11 will allow the cost of this transaction to be spread across a larger customer base to diminish the impact of the rate increases arising from the transaction. But it's still going to be a sizable increase. The problem here is not with the statutes that this commission is tasked with implementing. The problem is that it's incumbent upon the commission to implement 1102, 1103, and 1329 in concert so that we come up with a reasonable outcome that provides a public benefit. And that requires a robust development of the evidentiary record, and I don't see that in this particular case. Thank you for letting me go on at length.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further comments?
I don't think I asked that that be entered into the record as
That's what I was about to ask
as
you.
if read in its entirety. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
And just to clarify, you're also associating yourself with Commissioner Zerfas's statement.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I do have a statement. I asked that my statement be entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. Thank you for the reminder. On February 14th, 2023, the Pennsylvania American Water Company, PAWC, filed application requesting commission approval of its acquisition of the wastewater assets of the Butler Area Sewer Authority pursuant to sections 1102 and 1329 of the Public Utility Code. Through this application, PAWC seeks, among other things, to acquire substantially all of the assets, properties, and rights related to the wastewater collection and treatment system owned by the authority, and approval of the right to begin to offer, render, furnish, and supply wastewater service in the city of Butler and the surrounding areas. On August 14, 2023, PAWC, the City of Butler, the Township of Butler, the Office of Consumer Advocate, the Office of Small Business Advocate, and the Commission's Bureau of Investigations and Enforcement submitted a joint petition for approval of a unanimous settlement seeking to resolve this matter. On September 14, 2023, however, Administrative Law Judge Marta Gould issued a recommended decision recommending that the settlement and the application be denied. The recommended decision of the ALJ, however, must be reversed and the settlement accepted, thereby granting the application. In particular, I note that this matter is distinguishable from the matter involving the recent proceeding involving Aqua, Pennsylvania's filing to acquire East Whiteland Township's wastewater facilities. First, the settlement submitted by the parties in this case includes affirmative benefits for the residents of the selling authority. This includes, for example, enhancements to the low-income program outreach efforts, an increase in hardship fund funding totaling $3.5 million, and inclusion of commercial customers for payment arrangements. These benefits and others were not present in the East Whiteland Township case. Second, the record in this matter demonstrates that the system is currently under a corrective action plan with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. The system in East Whiteland Township case was not. Third, I note that this matter in the instant case comes to us as a result of a settlement supported by numerous parties as identified previously, whereas the matter in East Whiteland Township was fully litigated. While standing alone, this fact would not be sufficient to warrant granting the application. However, it is another factor that distinguishes this matter from the East Whiteland Township case and further supports reversing the recommended decision and granting the application. As a result, I am voting to approve the settlement submitted by the parties in this proceeding and granting PAWC's application. Is there any further conversation? Hearing none. On the motion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
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 Motion passes by a vote of 3-2, noting the dissents of Vice Chair Barrow and Commissioner Zerfas. On the matter as amended by the motion, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter passes as amended by the motion by a vote of 3-2, noting the dissents of Vice Chair Barrow and Commissioner Zerfas. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 6, It is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the rate case proposal and tariff supplement filed by the Philadelphia Gas Works.
Is there a motion to approve the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Coleman, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none.
I do have a statement, of course.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Madam Secretary, please enter the statement in the record as if I'd read it in its entirety. The overall result of this case has many positive attributes, and I commend the ALJs and the parties involved in litigating the issues to a full conclusion. This case has illuminated some issues that still warrant attention by PGW, and they include customer service, call center metrics to be specific, quality control reviews, and one that I'll talk about a bit more is failure to negotiate payment arrangements. With respect to the assertion that PGW payment arrangements fail to consider the individual situation of a payment trouble customers, I have concerns about the affordability of the utilities payment arrangements. While the Commission is constrained by the formulaic requirements of Chapter 14, my hope is that the utilities use their ability to set more flexible payment terms that customers are able to pay, considering their individual circumstances. Another issue that I find troubling is that PGW has closed its in-person customer service centers, opting to move to in-person payments at local retailers. In a large city like Philly, in-person services are essential. Customers may need assistance that is not available by telephone or online services. I encourage PGW to work closely and form partnerships with local community groups to train their staff and provide avenues for direct access to PGW's customer service staff to assist customers to meet their specific individual needs. One last thing is the practice of requesting 2 forms of identification from an applicant to establish service. That is contrary to Chapter 56, and it produces barriers that can significantly slow down the process of obtaining utility service for some individuals. Chapter 56 clearly articulates that applicants who provide one government-issued photo ID have satisfied the requirement to prove their identity. There are other ways to confirm identification for the purpose of establishing service while protecting against fraud. And I do admit that protecting against fraud is important, but there are other ways to do it. You get the one photo ID, or and there are other ways to add on to that, the one government-issued photo ID. Finally, I want to note that this proceeding once again raises the issue of the correct forum for consideration of universal service programs. It's my hope that the Commission will undertake a holistic review of whether our currently bifurcated rate case and universal service proceedings are comprehensively and efficiently addressing this vital component of utility service. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zerfus.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary, I have a statement. Please enter it into the record as if I read it in its entirety. But the Commission is making a determination today in Philadelphia Gas Works, I'll call them PGW's, request to increase its total annual operating revenues by approximately 10.2%, based on a fully projected future test year ending August 31st, 2024. I would like to thank the Office of Administrative Law Judge and the Office of Special Assistants for the time and effort they put into presenting thorough, well-reasoned, and carefully considered recommendations to the Commission in this fully contested case. In addition, the parties in this proceeding are to be commended for developing a complete and thorough record upon which the Commission will base its decision. I support the staff's recommendation to approve a notably smaller annual revenue increase of about 3.15%. While this increase is smaller than requested by PGW, any rate increase has an impact on the daily lives of public utility customers, and it is important for the Commission to ensure that appropriate customer protections and benefits are in place to assist customers with paying their bills and maintaining their utility service. I'm glad that the parties took the opportunity to fully vet affordability issues affecting PGW's customers, particularly because the record shows that PGW's percentage of confirmed low-income customers is higher than any other Pennsylvania natural gas or electric utility. The staff has recommended appropriately that consideration of customer service issues is particularly important in this base rate proceeding because many of these issues are specific to PGW's customers. In addition, delaying customers needed relief until these issues, until PGW's next universal service and energy conservation plan proceeding could result in denying low-income customers relief in the meantime. So I wanted to take the opportunity to highlight some of the important customer protections and benefits that will result from this base rate proceeding. PGW will prepare and submit a report to the Commission outlining how it intends to maintain or improve its current call center responsiveness. PGW will improve its identification of low-income customers in its universal service programs by adopting the Commission's Bureau of Consumer Services census-based estimated low-income customer count and use such data to increase its Customer Responsibility Program, or the CRP, enrollment and evaluate the effectiveness of PGW's universal service program outreach and participation. And PGW will prepare and submit to the Commission for approval data sharing coordination plans to enhance PGW's customer service to low-income customers and applicants. These customer protections and benefits are consistent with the Commission's recent interest in improving coordination efficiencies within our public utilities universal service programs, including our recently formed Universal Service Working Group, and maximizing the allocated dollars for these programs to the benefit of residential customers. I also believe it is crucial for public utilities to identify and provide outreach to customers that qualify for universal service programs and to ensure that they are properly enrolled and stay enrolled in these programs. It's important for PGW to implement these protections and benefits, particularly since the record in this case demonstrates that as of December 2022, less than half of the customers that PGW has identified as low income and less than 1/3 of PGW's estimated low income customers were enrolled in CRP. PGW should continue to strive to improve its CRP participation, especially in light of the rate increase customers will experience as a result of this proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zerfus. Is there any further discussion?
Chairman, I do have some comments to add to the record.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you. I'd ask that my statement be entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. Before the Commission for disposition and exceptions and reply exceptions to the recommended decision in PGW's base rate case. My statement addresses 5 exceptions filed by PGW regarding customer service and low-income assistance issues. Based upon a review of the record, I find these exceptions should be granted. PGW asserts that this is a base rate case and this is not the proper proceeding to address low-income programming, and that such issues should be addressed in the universal service proceedings. In this case, I agree. I noted my growing concern with the modification of universal service programs within a base rate case in a statement from the September 21st public meeting. I incorporated those comments and offer additional observations in my written statement for today. I will note for this specific case that after a 16-month proceeding, the Commission just approved the PGW 5-year universal service and energy conservation plan in March of this year. PGW is still in the process of implementing this plan, including compliance filings and monthly updates due to this Commission. Now, the same stakeholders who participated in PGW's universal service proceeding requested changes to a plan that has not even been fully implemented, let alone evaluated. PGW did not propose any changes to its universal service design as part of this rate case. More importantly, PGW did not propose any changes to the rates charged through universal service programming. Other parties in this rate case did, however, propose changes to PGW's universal service and customer assistance program. The Public Utility Code assigns the burden of proof to the proponent of a rule of order. According to the parties that have requested changes to PGW's universal service and customer assistance programs, bear the burden of proof on these issues, not PGW. Parties must demonstrate that they have met their burden by a preponderance of the evidence. This evidence must be substantial and legally credible. I don't believe the parties requesting the changes to PGW's universal service and customer assistance programs have met their burden of proof to adopt these changes. Based upon the record evidence before us, I cannot conclude the relevant parties met their burden of proof relating to call center performance, internal review of commission proceedings, the identification of low-income customers, the enrollment of low-income customers into PGW's customer assistance programs, the use of the BCS census-based estimated low-income customer count, data sharing and coordination, automatic enrollment, and cold weather surveys. Since the parties requesting the changes failed to meet their burden of proof on these issues, PGW's exceptions number 14 through 18 should be granted. As such, I will be concurring in part and dissenting in part and wish to be recorded as a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0, noting Commissioner Coleman affirming in part and dissenting in part. Madam Secretary.
Continuing at the bottom of page 6, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the application filed by T. Davis Excavating, LLC.
Is there a motion to approve the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Barrow, seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 7, and matters presented by Director Diskin and the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, it is recommended that the Commission adopt in an omnibus motion all 3 items on page 7, beginning with the application filed by Sunwave Gas and Power, Pennsylvania, and continuing the omnibus to include all 3 items on page 8, and ending the omnibus at the top of page 9 with the petition filed by the Borough of Ambler regarding its long-term infrastructure improvement plan.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Yanora, seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Continuing on page 9, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed order in the letter of notification filed by Mid-Atlantic Interstate Transmission, LLC.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Coleman, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion?
Chairman, I do have a statement.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Madam Secretary, please enter the statement into the record as if I'd read it in its entirety. On August 23rd of this year, MATE used the Commission's letter of notification process seeking to reconfigure the Shalakta substation in Armstrong Township, Indiana County, as well as to relocate connecting transmission lines. MATE proposes to reconfigure the substation and to replace facilities on its Keystone to Homer City 230 kV transmission line. The reconfiguration will improve reliability because should a line fault occur on the Homer City Keystone 230 line, the Shalakta 230 kV source would be lost. However, MATE also notes that no customers would suffer a reliability consequence from such an outage, and it would take both a line outage as well as a breaker failure before customers who rely on the Shalakta 115/23 transformer would experience an outage. Another stated benefit of the project would be switching from a straight bus configuration to a ring bus configuration, which better conforms to PJM planning criteria. Finally, some of the facilities to be replaced by the project are at end of life or close to end of life. For those that are not, MATE plans to repurpose that newer equipment. This one's a close case for me. Although the stated benefits are legitimate, the risk of customer outages due to the present configuration is extremely low. MATE recognizes that the proposed project is not needed to address a NERC, PJM, or even a MATE planning criteria violation. It is not part of a larger project. It is not driven by load growth. Moreover, because load is only affected if multiple facilities fail at the same time, it's highly unlikely that customer service will be interrupted without this project. When transmission facilities are proposed to be replaced due to a reliability need that will only come to pass in the rarest of cases, the Commission should be on highest alert that the project might not benefit customers commensurate with the cost of the project. Because the present substation configuration, based on the evidence presented by MATE, does not cause a reliability criteria violation, and because the likelihood of loss of load is extremely low, I question the necessity to approve this $8 million project, which provides only a minuscule benefit to the system. That a portion of the facilities are at end of life does not clearly demonstrate sufficient need in this instance to wreck and rebuild the entire substation. This case is not like I can compare it to the Hess case. In Hess, the facilities did cause a PPL reliability planning criteria violation. By MATE's own statements, these do not cause a planning criteria violation. In Hess, customers would lose power if either of two transmission lines had a fault, and one of those lines was consistently among PPL's worst performing. Here, two facilities would need to both be lost. The transmission line at issue has had only one outage in the last 5 years that lasted 3 days, but that outage would have been needed to be paired with a stuck breaker or something like that for customers to lose service, and it's highly unlikely. Finally, MATE's own statements indicate that the proposed project will not impact outage rates for customers. This commission has always been highly supportive of a reliable transmission network. I am highly supportive of a reliable transmission network, but at the same time, we have to consider costs. Since 2013, transmission costs have increased from $5 a megawatt hour of the regional wholesale bills to $13.50. At the same time, transmission spending has shifted from predominantly regional projects that are subject to competition and PJM planning to this type of smaller supplemental project, which it's the commission who takes a look at this. It's therefore critical that we keep a close eye on supplemental transmission spending. Transmission utilities should be on notice that when they propose projects that are based on deterministic planning criteria, they should include evidence that the reliability improvement is not speculative and provides benefits to customers commensurate with the cost of the project. This is, I mean, we look at this and say, oh, it's only $8 million. $8 million is a lot. I think I saw recently one of our utilities is looking at $362 million in the upcoming RTEP. Over the past 5 years, all of these little $8 million projects have amounted to about $5 billion in our region. So we really have to keep an eye on this. And all I'm asking is that the companies, when they file these LONs, please provide sufficient information so that it's a lot easier for me to do my job. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further discussion? I do have a statement. I ask that my statement be entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. This matter concerns a letter of notification, or LON, filed by the Mid-Atlantic Interstate Transmission, or MATE, for approval to relocate a section of the existing Keystone Homer City 230 kV transmission line in Armstrong Township, Indiana County. MATE asserts that the relocation of the line is needed to accommodate the expansion of a nearby existing substation from a straight bus configuration to a ring bus configuration. The proposed project is a supplemental upgrade initiated by MATE as part of the local planning process. MATE states that the proposed project is needed to improve the reliability of its transmission network, eliminate the simultaneous outages of multiple transmission facilities in the area, and modify the existing substation to comply with current minimum design standards. MATE estimates that the transmission line relocation will cost over $1.1 million, and the associated substation work will cost $6.6 million, for a total approximate project cost of $7.7 million. MATE acknowledges that the proposed project is not needed to address a NERC, PJM, or MATE planning criteria violation. MATE also acknowledges that the proposed project is not needed to address load growth, nor is it part of a larger project. Rather, MATE explains that the proposed project will reduce the likelihood of a simultaneous outage of multiple facilities with the conversion to a ring bus configuration. Under the current configuration, however, MATE indicated that the likelihood of an outage scenario is small. The proposed project will eliminate the impact of a transmission line experiencing a breaker issue, though MATE indicated the rates of a breaker failure are less than 1% at other MATE locations. As Vice Chair Barrow just previously mentioned, the cost of transmission service has increased significantly across the PJM footprint and in Pennsylvania. In 2013, the price of transmission in the PJM footprint averaged $4.78 per megawatt hour, and in 2022, averaged $15.15 per megawatt hour, representing a 216% increase in just 9 years. With transmission costs consuming a larger percentage of customer bills, I believe it is important for the Commission to ensure that requests for transmission line siting and construction, including LONs, are supported by substantial evidence demonstrating a public need for the project. In my view, the LON, as initially filed, did not present substantial evidence to illustrate a public need for the proposed project, since there is an apparent low likelihood of customers experiencing an outage under current substation configuration. 4 rounds of data requests and responses were exchanged, and only after receiving the latest round of data request responses am I persuaded that substantial evidence now exists to approve this LON. Specifically, the most recent data request responses demonstrate that the transmission line relocation project would replace 2 existing wood pole structures that are 57 years old. These structures have an anticipated service life of between 40 to 60 years, and thus are at the end of their useful life. The project concerning the reconfiguration of the substation proposes replacing various pieces of equipment. 3 of these pieces, including a transformer, have either exceeded their anticipated service life or within the range of the end of the expected useful life. MATE indicates that it will repurpose the other pieces of the substation equipment with remaining service life. This key information, in addition to the proposed upgrades that will bring the substation in compliance with current minimum design standards, constitutes substantial evidence to approve the LON. Therefore, today I am voting to approve this LON. I also wish to apprise all interested parties that I intend to review LON proceedings with the same level of detail as larger, more complex proceedings to ensure the cost of proposed projects is substantially justified by a public need. To that extent, I encourage public utilities seeking future approval of LONs to include all pertinent information in the initial filing. The composition of this Board of Commissioners at the PUC has changed over the years. With this new board and given increased transmission costs, I suspect that closer examination will be taken to ensure that proposed transmission projects, as well as their associated costs, meet the public necessity standard. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a joint statement with Commissioner Yanora.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you. I'd ask our joint statement be entered into the record as though we read it in entirety. Let me just first say that I understand the concern over cost, and I believe that during my 13-year tenure on this commission, myself and my colleagues have also been concerned with the matter of cost. I'm certainly interested to hear any proposals that this commission may have in terms of asking for additional information. I've advocated that we do this on a global basis and not on a case-by-case basis, so I'll be looking forward to those conversations as we go forward. In terms of the joint statement, again, I just ask that this be entered in the record as I read it in its entirety. The Mid-Atlantic Interstate Transmission LLC, MATE, has filed a letter of notification, LON, requesting commission approval of the relocation of 2 high-voltage transmission lines in Indiana County, Pennsylvania. Based upon a review of the record, applicable law, and case precedent, we find the MATE LON should be approved. Regarding the Keystone Homer City 230 kV transmission line relocation project, by the way of background, this is the most recent in a series of upgrades that is intended to improve the reliability of MATE's transmission system. On at least 5 previous occasions, including as recently as August of this year, the Commission has reviewed and approved MATE LONs that involve the relocation, addition, or replacement of transmission lines to facility upgrades at MATE's transmission network substations. MATE has confirmed that these filings are part of a long-term planned grid modernization effort. Both the present and the prior LONs were reviewed by the PJM Interconnection LLC as part of its planned process and are categorized as supplemental upgrades. Supplemental upgrades are not mandated by PJM but are necessary to address planning function of transfer to PJM. These may include, for example, projects initiated to serve a new customer or an upgrade facilities that comply with company reliability guidelines. PJM's transmission owner guidelines provide that MATE should plan its systems to minimize the, quote, magnitude and duration of system outages. As explained in the LON, MATE seeks to relocate approximately 445 feet of HV transmission line to support the modification of MATE's Shalakta substation. MATE represents that the relocation of these facilities is necessary to support the substation project. The main 230 kV bus at the substation has experienced 2 unplanned outages in the last 5 years, and the modernization will reduce the magnitude and duration of any future outages on the portion of its transmission system. MATE represents that this proposal was at least expensive of the 3 options considered to conform with the Shalakta substation to minimize substation design requirements. In response to Commission data requests, MATE provided additional information, including but not limited to the following, to support the statement of need requirement. The proposed modification will significantly reduce the likelihood of simultaneous outage in multiple facilities. conversion of the Salacta substation to a ring bus configuration will comply with PJM's current design standards, which do not allow for 3 terminal lines at or above 200 kV, as well as MATE's standards as documented in MATE's requirements for transmission-connected facilities. Reliability enhancement projects like this project are consistent with PJM's general transmission owner guidelines, minimizing the magnitude and duration of system outages in the event of component failure or failing facilitating the isolation of failed components while maximizing the amount of transmission system equipment that can remain in service. Regarding standard of review for transmission line proceedings, the Public Utility Code establishes reliability obligations for both utilities and the Commission. MATE, as a public utility, is obligated to, quote, provide adequate, efficient, safe, and reliable, reasonable service and facilities, end quote. As such, service shall be, quote, reasonable, continuous, without unreasonable interruption or delay, end quote. The Commission has similar obligations regarding electric service. The Commission's determination in the context of fully citing application on whether a particular line was, quote, needed, end quote, has been subject to appellate review. Commonwealth Court has made the following determination. The Commission may find need based upon evidence that a transmission line is required to satisfy a transmission owner's own reliability guidelines. Second, the electric utility is to be proactive in monitoring its system to identify when improvements are needed to minimize the, quote, magnitude and duration of future outages, end quote, and should not wait until a problem is looming or absolutely necessary before correcting it. The above holdings are relevant and on point for our consideration of whether MATE's LON satisfies our standard of review. When we find that MATE has more than sufficiently provided, quote, a general statement of the need of the HV line in meeting identified present and future demands for service, end quote. The proposal is expressly intended to mitigate the magnitude and duration of unplanned outages, which goes to the very definition of reliability provided in the law, follows applicable Commonwealth Court precedent, and comports with PJM's general transmission owner guidelines. Based upon a review of the record, we find that MATE has provided substantial evidence to support a finding that it has met the burden of proof. The parties that were required to be notified of this application have had notice and opportunity to be heard, and no protests have been filed. Accordingly, we find the MATE letter of notification should be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
I do have a couple more comments.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Commissioner Coleman, I do agree with you that the Commission probably needs to take a holistic look at our transmission regulations and the process that we use for these LONs. I just wanted to make a finer point on my previous comments. Reliability is number one. The type of review that PJM does for these type of supplemental projects is a do no harm review, how it fits into their system planning and whether it's going to cause issues in their system. It's not that they're looking at this system for efficiency, cost, or any of those things. That's the Commission's job. And I think that we do need to have a bit more robust process in how we look at these. This particular project, I would hazard a guess that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of similarly situated substations that have lines that need a little bit of work, a couple of poles replaced, a couple of pieces of the equipment in the substation are aging out, but they're working fine. In this case, it's something like less than 1% chance of an outage occurring because of what they're fixing here. And what I worry about is if we start approving every single one of these, our transmission rates are going to go through sky high. So we just have to be very careful in how we look at the projects. Bearing in mind that reliability is number one. It is job number one. But that is closely followed by rates and everything that goes into rates. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it by a vote of 4-1, noting the dissent of Vice Chair Barrow. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 10, it is recommended that the Commission adopt in an omnibus motion the first two items on page 10, beginning with the application filed by Columbia Gas of Pennsylvania, noting that the third item on page 10, the petition filed by the Pennsylvania Power Company, has been postponed to the public meeting of December 7th, 2023, and continuing the omnibus to include both items on page 11, and ending the omnibus with the petition filed by the West Penn Power Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Barrow, seconded by Commissioner Yanora. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 12, in matters presented by Chief Counsel Screven and the Law Bureau, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the proposed order addressing certain formal complaints regarding smart meter procurement and installation.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Zerfas, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion?
Chairman, I do have a,
We're on smart meters. So.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, you
Yay.
used up your,
Okay.
your turns. You might want to hold on. You only get too many left. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Continuing on page 12, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking seeking comments and proposed amendments to the Commission's regulations at 52 PA Code, Chapters 1, 3, and 5.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion made by Commissioner Zerfas, seconded by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion?
Chairman, I do have a motion.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Madam Secretary, please enter this motion into the record as though I read it in its entirety. I will not. I am just going to pick out my favorite parts. So the general provisions regarding practice before the Commission were last reviewed in 2006. It's been time for us to do this again. Our jurisdiction and our responsibilities have changed considerably since 2006. So in the first quarter of 2016, we announced our intent to revise our rules of practice and procedure, chapters 1, 3, and 5. We started stakeholder meetings, and let's fast forward to today. Commission staff offers detailed proposals for changing the rules, which I believe will clarify expectations for practice and procedure before the Commission. Today, I offer 14 additional proposals to be issued for comment. I will highlight a few of them. First, and I'll start with my favorite one, dismissals with prejudice. The Commission often relies on sections 316 and 332F of the Code to dismiss proceedings with prejudice when litigants fail to appear. The Commission began doing that in the recent past, and I think it happened at a time when we had quite a backlog in case processing here at the Commission, and we were worried about abusive process and expenditure of scarce resources in repeat litigation. 332F addresses the failure to be at a scheduled conference or hearing and holds that failure to secure counsel and appear precludes the party from participating, seeking a rehearing or a recall unless it was unavoidable and the other party is not prejudiced. This general rule and exception seem to be limited to those circumstances where a party is required to have legal counsel before the commission. That is the, I would say, a minority of folks who appear before us. This has also been relied on to dismiss unrepresented pro se litigants with prejudice when they fail to appear. Section 5.245 of our rules addresses failure to appear and the circumstances in which failure to be represented at a hearing may constitute a waiver to participate in the hearing. I propose revising Section 5.245 of the rules to prohibit this provision's applicability to a party who is not required to be represented as set forth in the statute if there is no finding that that party has committed an abuse of process. The next issue is res judicata, collateral estoppel, and its interplay with dismissals with prejudice. Once again, the Commission relies on Section 316 of the Code and the ancillary res judicata or collateral estoppel. However, Pennsylvania law holds that res judicata should not apply if a matter is dismissed on procedural matters, like a failure to appear, because there has been no substantive determination on the merits of the case. My proposal is to prohibit the application of res judicata and collateral estoppel based upon a litigant's failure to appear at hearing. Next is representation of corporations and partnerships. Sections 1.21 through 1.23 of our current rules operate to preclude a corporation or partnership from appearing before the Commission in an adversarial proceeding unless they have legal counsel. This rule relies on case precedent, holding that a corporation may appear in court only through an attorney at law admitted to practice before the court. However, I note that Rule 207 in the Rules of Procedure of the Magisterial District Judges in Pennsylvania allows corporate or partnership entities to appear pro se, although, as noted, that is not the case with the Court of Common Pleas and higher courts. It could be that the Commission proceedings are more akin to a district justice proceeding, even though this is at the administrative level, given the rights of appeal to Pennsylvania courts set out in the Public Utility Code. I believe that a more permissive approach to representation could better facilitate the ability of small Pennsylvania businesses to operate and seek redress before the Commission. I propose revising our rules to permit small business corporations or partnerships to appear through an authorized corporate official. I asked for comments on the appropriate definition of small business corporation or partnership, including factors such as the size or revenue or the potential adoption of an appropriate definition contained in other laws. Representation of individuals. Various administrative agencies permit a party to be represented by a non-lawyer in some circumstances. For example, individuals claiming unemployment comp can be represented by a duly authorized agent before the Department of Labor and Industry, the Unemployment Comp Board of Review, and an unemployment comp referee. The Department of Human Services, their Office of Hearings and Appeal, and also the Department of Revenue, their Board of Appeals. I think that a more permissive approach to representation similar to other administrative agencies would better facilitate the development of evidentiary records in complaint proceedings involving individual consumers. I propose revising our rules to permit an individual consumer to be represented by a non-attorney third-party representative holding their power of attorney during periods of disability and/or incapacity. Those are 4. I will spare you the other 10. Please read the full motion, but I will move that the Law Bureau modify the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking Order to include the proposals outlined in this motion.
We've heard the motion by Vice Chair Barrow. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Zerfus.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary, I have a statement in this matter. Please add it to the record as if I read it in its entirety. But it has been over 17 years since the Commission last revised the general provisions governing practice before the PUC. During that time, our jurisdictional responsibilities have changed considerably, and the nature of administrative practice and procedure have evolved and matured. The Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, the NOPR, we are considering today recognizes that important technological innovations and advancements have occurred since 2006 and proposes updates to bring efficiencies to the current procedures employed in our administrative hearings and proceedings. We should always endeavor to improve efficiencies in our administrative hearing process, and the NOPR takes significant steps in that direction. I am pleased that the motion before us today includes more substantive considerations. These include proposals to modernize our regulations to meet the realities and circumstances faced by parties, particularly those who are pro se complainants and small businesses. These folks are navigating our administrative hearing process, and I think we could do a little bit better in how we guide that process. I wholeheartedly support these critical considerations and welcome the comments and policy debates that it will generate. As for the proposed revisions on representation of an individual, particularly related to disability and incapacity, I think the proposal within the motion is a good starting point, but in my view, it falls short of necessary reforms to individual representation, similar to procedures utilized by several other administrative agencies, and you heard that from Vice Chair Barrow. By authorizing additional representation options for individuals, we may better facilitate the development of evidentiary records and complaint proceedings involving individual consumers. However, I'm not trying to prejudge the outcome and welcome this robust discussion. Undoubtedly, the inclusion of this issue in the NOPR makes this one of the more consequential rulemakings in some time that is directly aimed at helping consumers. I encourage all of our vested partners, including those organizations representing vulnerable populations like legal service organizations, law school pro bono clinics, and organizations representing seniors, to weigh in on this issue. It would be beneficial to hear from experienced paralegals, social workers, and other professionals, especially those who already represent low-income individuals in public benefits, unemployment, and other administrative hearings. I'd like to hear more about this proposal or any other similar proposals in the NOPR, which could better inform us on how to accomplish effective representation for individuals in commission hearings and proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zerfus. Any further discussion?
Chairman, I do have a statement.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you. I ask that my statement be entered the record as I read it in its entirety before the Commission for disposition. Is the Commission's notice for proposed rulemaking seeking comments on proposed amendments to update and clarify the Commission's procedural regulations. By way of background, the Commission's general provisions for practice before this Commission were last modified in 2006, as you've heard. In preparation for this NOPR, the Commission convened a series of meetings between Commission staff and attorneys who practiced before this Commission back in 2016. The recommendation prepared by staff is the result of those lengthy efforts to obtain input and balance the interest of all parties involved. I want to thank all those parties who participated in the process. I would have supported beginning the rulemaking through the adoption of a proposed order that is now before us. However, I do not support the motion that has been offered to modify the proposed order. My objection to the motion are both to the process and to the substance of some of the changes that are being proposed. First, regarding the process, the motion proposes a number of far-reaching substantive changes that were not subject to the Commission's prior efforts to obtain input from stakeholders and to build consensus. In the spirit of full transparency, I think a better approach would have been to share these changes with the shareholders through an advance notice of proposed rulemaking. I'm concerned that some of these proposed changes are contrary to law. Additionally, in some of these cases, the motion does not identify the specific alternative regulatory language that is to be used in the annex that will be served on the Office of Attorney General, the Governor's Budget Office, and the public. It is the Commission's usual practice in NOPRs to vote on specific regulatory language, whether from a staff recommendation or a motion. Given that it is unclear what the Commission is voting to do in some of these changes, I am not certain that the approach satisfies Pennsylvania's open meeting law. I have identified these concerns, and I do not agree with modifying the proposed order to include the changes from this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to associate myself with Commissioner Coleman's statement.
Thank you, Commissioner Yanora. Any further discussion?
Chairman, I do have another statement.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Madam Secretary, please enter the statement into the record as though I read it in its entirety. One more proposal that I would ask stakeholders to comment upon is whether our regulations' stated preference for settlements is appropriate in all circumstances. Section 5.231A of our current rules state that it is the policy of the Commonwealth to encourage settlements. Uniformly, settlements have been encouraged because they avoid the time and expense associated with litigation. Although litigation costs are a legitimate factor when considering settlements, there may be proceedings in which the public interest would be better served by a full evidentiary hearing. Moreover, the stated policy in Section 5.231A may serve to discourage parties from proceeding to litigation out of a perception that the Commission looks with disfavor on litigated proceedings. Please include comments and evidence on the benefits and burdens created by the settlement policy as currently drafted, and under what circumstances the Commission might seek a full public hearing for purposes of transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further discussion? Before we vote, I would just like to say that I would like to commend the Vice Chair and her office for your leadership with this. As we talked about, 2006, since this was last reviewed, I know she's been working on it from a staff end for about 10 years now, formally for 7 years. We've had numerous discussions about this rulemaking here for the last year. And you know, it was a huge undertaking, and again, I commend you and your staff for your leadership.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On the motion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no.
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 The ayes have it by a vote of 3-2, noting the dissents of Commissioners Coleman and Yanora. On the matter as amended by the motion, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter passes by a vote of 3. The matter passes as amended by the motion by a vote of 3-2, noting the dissents of Commissioners Coleman and Yanora. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 13, and matters presented by Chief Administrative Law Judge Rainey and the Office of Administrative Law Judge. It is recommended that the Commission adopt the initial decision of ALJ Buckley in the formal complaint of Robert Adams versus Zito Media Voice, LLC.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Zerfus, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion?
Chairman, I do have a motion on this matter.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, and I'd ask that my motion be entered into the record as I read it in entirety. My motion proposes to reverse the initial decision, or ID, involving the formal complaint filed by Robert Adams against Zito Media Voice, LLC. In his complaint, Mr. Adams alleges poor quality of service with his internet, telephone, and television service, including in emergency situations. In response, Zito Media filed preliminary objections that the commission lacked jurisdiction to hear the complaint. Following a pre-hearing conference, an initial decision was issued dismissing the complaint on jurisdictional grounds without a hearing. Upon review of the pleadings and the applicable law, the ID should be reversed and this matter should be remanded to the Office of Administrative Law Judge for further proceedings. A preliminary objection seeking dismissal of the pleadings will be granted only where relief is clearly warranted and free from doubt, and the Commission should dismiss the complaint only if it appears that the complainant would not be entitled to relief under any circumstances as a matter of law. According to the ID, a hearing to ascertain the factual status of telephone service to complainant is moot because Zito Media is no longer a Commission jurisdictional public utility in Pennsylvania. I disagree. The fact that Zito Media no longer is certificated to operate in Pennsylvania may not preclude Mr. Adams from having his complaint heard. Whereas the Commission's approved Zito Media abandonment of service in Pennsylvania was effective on January 12, 2023, this approval was granted after Mr. Adams filed his complaint on May 20, 2022. Consequently, the allegations giving rise to the complaint occurred while Zito Media was still a certificated public utility in Pennsylvania. Moreover, for the purpose of the preliminary objections, Zito Media must accept as rule the facts pleaded by Mr. Adams. This includes the fact pled by Mr. Adams that Zito Media is his provider of telephone service. For these reasons, it is not clear and free from doubt that the Commission is precluded from hearing the complaint as a matter of law, and it is also not clear that the complainant is not entitled to relief under any circumstances. Therefore, I move that the initial decision issued in the above captioned docket is reversed as a matter is remanded to the Office of Administrative Law Judge for further proceeding consistent with this motion, and that the Office of Special Assistants prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion. Thank you.
We've heard the motion by Commissioner Coleman. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Yanora. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zerfus.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to be recorded as concurrent result only, please.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0, noting Commissioner Zerfus concurring in result only. On the matter as amended by the motion, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter passes as amended by the motion by a vote of 5-0, noting Commissioner Zerfus concurring in result only. Madam Secretary.
Continuing on page 13, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the initial decision of ALJ Ashton in the formal complaint of the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus Service Emporium.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Yanora, seconded by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zerfus.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary, I have a statement in this matter. Please add it to the record as if I'm reading it in its entirety, but I'm not going to read it, and I would just like to submit it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zerfus. Any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
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 The ayes have it by a vote of 3-2, noting the dissents of Vice Chair Barrow and Commissioner Zerfus. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the regular agenda. Turning now to the carry-in. On page 1 of the carry-in agenda, it is recommended by the Office of Special Assistants that the Commission adopt the proposed opinion and order in the affiliated interest agreement filed by the Buck Hill Water Company and Buck Hill Falls Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Zerfus, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 2 of the carry-in, it is recommended by the Law Bureau that the Commission adopt the proposed order in the petition for declaratory order filed by the City of Titusville.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Coleman, seconded by Commissioner Yanora. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Continuing on page 2 of the carry-in, it is recommended by the Law Bureau that the Commission adopt the ratification of the ex parte emergency order issued on November 1, 2023, in response to the joint petition of the Pennsylvania American Water Company and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, requesting receivership of the East Dunkard Water Authority.
Is there a motion to adopt the proposed order?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Zerfus, seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? I do have a motion in this matter. I would ask the Vice Chair to chair the meeting.
I recognize Chairman DeFrank for purposes of his motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. I ask that my motion be read into the record as though I read it in its entirety, entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. On November 1st, 2023, I issued an ex parte emergency order in response to a joint petition filed by the Pennsylvania American Water Company, or PAWC, and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, or DEP, requesting an ex parte emergency order in regard to a receivership of East Dunkard Water Authority. By issuing the emergency order, the Commission took immediate affirmative action to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of approximately 1,800 households, businesses, and schools, and a population of approximately 4,200 residents in 6 affected townships in Greene County, Pennsylvania. The emergency order detailed, among other things, numerous statutory and regulatory violations related to the system and explained that the DEP had issued an order to the authority requiring a series of corrective actions to address deficiencies in the system. In addition, the Commonwealth Court issued an order on December 15, 2022, requiring the authority to take certain corrective actions as well. The emergency order noted the unusual facts and circumstances of this case and addressed the Commission's determination that such facts and circumstances warranted action establishing the rights, duties, and obligations of PAWC as a jurisdictional utility if and when it is appointed by the Commonwealth Court to be receiver for the authority, a non-jurisdictional entity. This Commission has never taken such extraordinary measures. I am pleased that we vote today to ratify that emergency order to further ensure that the Commission does all it can in response to a serious public health and safety threat this Commission will not ignore. Appendix A to the emergency order, however, requires modification which necessitates this motion. In particular, I move today that Appendix A of the emergency order be modified so that it is clear that, 1, PAWC, in its capacity as receiver of the authority, shall be authorized to take actions identified in Appendix A and serve as the receiver of the authority subject to the conditions contained in Appendix A. 2, operating expenses and DEP-mandated capital expenses incurred by PAWC as receiver are eligible for deferred accounting treatment and may be charged to a deferred expenses account. 3, PAWC conduct an evaluation of the system, identify the deficiencies in the system's physical conditions, facilities, and operational procedures, identify and prepare a plan of capital and operational improvements, and report the results of such evaluation, as well as any DEP-mandated capital improvements to the Commission. 4, PAWC as receiver has the authority to receive and utilize grant funds in the name of the authority and borrow money in the name of the authority necessary for the implementation of corrective actions and continued provision of adequate, efficient, safe, and reasonable service to the customers of the system. 5, PAWC has the authority, but is not required to file a petition for bankruptcy and participate in any such proceedings on behalf of the authority. And 6, any costs incurred by PAWC in providing emergency assistance to the authority before it is granted by the court as receiver shall be eligible for the deferred expense account as provided for in the emergency order. Therefore, I move that 1, that the ex parte emergency order issued on November 1st, 2023 at docket number P2023043950 is modified consistent with this motion and hereby ratified. 2, that a copy of the ratification order be served upon all parties served with the ex parte emergency order issued on November 1st, 2023. And 3, that the Law Bureau prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion. Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow.
Is there a second for the chairman's motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Yonora. Any discussion on the motion? I do have a brief verbal statement on this one. Chairman, thank you for your leadership on this. It was really important that that emergency order go out. My concern with it is I'm not a fan of a lot of the language in the annex. It's different than what I've seen in past such orders. And I really do hope that it is not a trend that we're going to continue going forward. But I do repeat that emergency order needed to go out for the health and safety of the public. That is all. Any further discussion?
Yeah, if I just may respond, and I thank you for that. And as the discussions we've had, this is an extraordinary circumstance. We've had over nearly 4,400 residents that did not have access to water. And what that means is if there was a fire in that community, there would not have been water to put out that fire. The danger that was present in this authority was clear and warranted such extraordinary approach. So, I certainly hope this isn't precedent, because if it is precedent, it means there's going to be more communities that are completely without water service, for sanitary sewers, for every aspect of our day-to-day life. Imagine not having access to water in your home. These residents lived, I believe, 5 days under that. Water was eventually restored on Saturday, but when they came home from work on Tuesday, there was no water in that system at all. And, when we have a dewatered system like that, everything that follows after that is of significance, because I don't believe we've seen too many dewatered systems in our Commonwealth here. So, again, I appreciate your comments. I just wanted to point out the extraordinary circumstance that we've witnessed here, and I certainly hope we don't witness it in the future as well. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 I will be recorded as concurring in result only. Any objections? On final adoption, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter is adopted as amended by the chairman's motion by a vote of 5-0, noting my partial concurrence. You may have the gavel back.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Madam Secretary.
Turning to page 3 of the carry-in. There is your motion, Mr. Chairman, with Vice Chair Barrow regarding distributed energy resources participation in wholesale markets.
I will recognize Vice Chair Barrow to read our motion. Vice Chair Barrow.
You sure you don't want to read this? They got to be tired of hearing me.
You're doing a great job.
All right. Madam Secretary, please enter this motion into the record as though it was read in its entirety. On September 17, 2020, FERC issued order number 2222 establishing the requirement that RTOs allow distributed energy resources, DERs, to participate in wholesale markets through aggregations, also known as virtual power plants. Distributed energy resource aggregations, DERAs, have the potential to deploy a wide range of small distribution system interconnected resources to ensure resource adequacy without the need to build out expensive transmission and distribution upgrades. Through these DERAs, many different types of technologies could be deployed to increase energy efficiency, use available energy when it is the cheapest, cleanest, and most plentiful, or even inject energy into the distribution and bulk power systems. By way of some examples, small rooftop solar systems could inject energy while managed charging by electric vehicles soak up that electricity. And at the same time, smart thermostats or smart water heaters could shift customer demand to different periods of the day, depending on the needs of the grid. This is possible even while saving money for customers. Because distributed energy resources all operate close to the load the distribution system needs to serve, sometimes at the same site, resource adequacy can be maintained without building vast transmission and distribution networks to move power from place to place. According to one analysis by the Brattle Group, a 60 gigawatt virtual power plant could meet future resource adequacy needs at a net cost that is $15 billion to $35 billion lower than the cost of a gas peaker or battery storage deployment for the same reliability benefit. PJM is currently engaging in the compliance process at FERC for Order 2222 with a target of beginning allowing DERA participation in the wholesale markets for the 2026-2027 delivery year. So that Pennsylvania is not left behind, we believe that the Commission should formally initiate an investigative and rulemaking process regarding Order 2222. The investigation and rulemaking should address and seek comment on, among other things, changes to distribution interconnection rules, changes to metering requirements, cost allocation issues for facilities allowing the interconnection of the DERs, adjudication of disputes regarding the registration of the DERs, management of distribution utility overrides of DERs to maintain reliability, protection of DER owners from unfair trade practices or excessive risk in the wholesale markets, prevention of double compensation or double counting between retail and wholesale market participation, and any necessary electronic data exchange revisions. Therefore, we move that the Law Bureau, in consultation with the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, prepare an advance notice of proposed rulemaking regarding any changes or additions needed to Commission regulations or policy statements in order to align the FERC Order number 2222. The advance notice of proposed rulemaking be prepared for action at a Commission public meeting on or before February 28, 2024. The Law Bureau is authorized to consult with other state commissions in the PJM region to harmonize, to the extent practicable, potential Order 2222 rules and policies of the PUC with those of other states. Thank you.
We've heard the motion by Vice Chair Barrow and myself. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Zerfus. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it by a vote of 5-0. Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, that concludes all agenda items to be considered today.
Well, thank you, but before we adjourn today, I wish to provide a few comments in recognition of Veterans Day, which our nation recognizes every November. It is time to celebrate and honor our nation's servicemen and women of the Armed Forces of the United States. it is also time to acknowledge the many sacrifices they must make. Veterans play a strong role in our public utilities and in our state and national workforce as a whole. Today, we again wish to recognize the many men and women of our Public Utility Commission who have served or are serving in our armed forces. We are proud of our many PUC employees who have answered the call of duty. Those PUC employees serve or have served in the U.S. Marine Corps, the U.S. Army, the U.S. Air Force, the Pennsylvania Army National Guard, the U.S. Navy, the New Jersey National Guard, and the U.S. Army National Guard. I also wish to recognize one of my fellow commissioners as being part of that amazing list. Commissioner Yonora, we thank you for your service in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. At this time, I invite all veterans in the hearing room with us to please stand to be recognized. To all of you, we thank you for your service to our country and we salute you. I encourage everyone to thank a service member this weekend and also take the opportunity to attend one of the many Veterans Day ceremonies hosted by various organizations in our communities. And before we adjourn, I also wish to take this opportunity to recognize November as Native American Heritage Month. The month is an opportunity to spread awareness of Indigenous history and related contemporary issues to highlight Native Americans who enrich our culture. It started as a day of recognition in 1915. President George H.W. Bush approved a joint resolution in 1990 designating the month-long celebration. And today, as noted in a proclamation signed by President Joe Biden, quote, Native Americans are essential to the fabric of the United States. They serve in the United States Armed Forces at higher rates than any other ethnic group. They continue to steward so many of our great lands. Their contributions to science, humanities, arts, public service, and more have brought prosperity for all of us. Their diverse cultures and communities continue to thrive and lead us forward. Let us use this month of November to celebrate our diverse and rich cultures, histories, and traditions, and to appreciate the great contributions of the Native Americans. And before adjourning, I want to thank Commissioner Zerfus for suggesting we make this recognition. If there's no other business to come before us, are there any objections to adjourning? Hearing none, we are adjourned.